Let's release the official stress of the girl named Handa who makes career plans. However, it turns out that she released a very simple stress, and it wasn't enough, and as it is described as deeply crazy. The career girl wanted to say this directly, but Handa is very strictly talented. It seems that the eternal solitary side is standing against something, pushing against endless things. The career girl without thoughts is aiming for the future. However, it is said that there is no stress called light, yet it surrounds many children. The girl who saw this Handa realizes that she will not live a normal life. Somehow, the career girl learned something from Handa. Handa, sacrificing herself, made her understand that a person who cannot confidently express the answer that emerges cannot become a true fortune teller. The exam results have been released. 2 from our monastery are set to take the exam, so they gathered at the unruly one's house to prepare and take a break. Currently, his house has become the secret base for Handa's group. The glasses have slightly improved, the score. The young people wondered when Handa joined, as Handa should have joined first. Not having joined first means it was intentional not to join. Handa does not want to stand out from others, to maintain her existence like a shadow. She has focused on the future of literary arts, and thus she felt disheartened. Among them, the only person who thinks of an ordinary, simple name is this Kondo. Thus, it was the day of the exam. Handa's copy and the wind sat at Handa's desk, but the model was recklessly saying, not to bump into each other. Then Handa came in. Everyone was like, wow, Handa, how did you manage to excel in your exam? You're not the kind of person who would forget to write your name, they said. But Handa had actually forgotten to write her name. When the exam started, for some reason, Handa began writing enthusiastically and loudly. The others thought Handa was battling against time with them. The next day, everyone passed the exam. Then they said, we misunderstood Handa. She was intentionally battling time with us, so that we wouldn't fail the exam. However, the heroic Handa had forgotten to write her name again. Even today, she doesn't realize it and continues on. Since there aren't any decent books in the library, hardly anyone comes in. Why aren't there any decent books, you ask? It's because the library only places old books for Handa. They even named it Handa's Corner. Today Handa came in to borrow a book. However, the librarian puts a different book inside the cover of the one Handa chooses. It is said to be a book about the love story of a famous young man. But after Handa leaves, a member of Handa's group comes in. Then they said, you may be an expert in books, but we are experts in Handa. Let's place all the types of books that Handa is interested in at your library. Thus, the library was updated and the excitement did not cease. But one day, Handa comes in and returns a book with the wrong cover. The library then asks her, what did you think of this book? And Handa replies, I thought your library is really diligent. In truth, Handa hadn't read it. She heard it from her friend Kava. Upon hearing this, the library felt remorseful, thinking, while Handa noticed my efforts, I was only thinking about love. And then, I will not order any more literary books. You don't have to come back again, it said. And so, Handa, who was just minding her own business, lost her right to visit the library. However, the remaining library could be just as silent, even without the right to listen, because I will go there myself, it was said. Handa's class decided to go on a trip to Kyoto. However, students from another school were also going there. Wherever Handa is in our school, they say she lights up the walls of that school. Alright, let's erase the whiteboard. While we were on the Chinese train, students from another school came in and mingled with us. Handa, however, managed to separate and ended up sharing candy with one of them. But just when the task was about to be completed, the whiteboard came in and the officials hurried away. After arriving in Kyoto, both our side and the other side insisted that theirs was better, leading to a commotion. Apparently that night, the whiteboard officials decided on Handa's fate. One of them, however, ended up with such small eyes from the lenses. A meme started circulating, and it turned out to be about a person. On the other side, our Handa, unaware of anything, sat sadly in the game room. It turns out, they isolated our person and brought him in here alone. Handa thought they put him in here alone because people considered him strange, but in reality, they brought him in to protect him from the crazy girls. At night, while our monastery was sleeping, there was a funny incident with Handa at the window. and so it's almost like a war is starting. The next day the rowdy hand was not idle. They snatched the enemy's campaign and ran away. Thus, our bespectacled one has the enemy's skull, the model has the enemy's model, and the rowdy hand has the enemy's rowdiness. Our world Kondo converses with the enemy's world hand in hand. Indeed, that white liquid, which appears innocuous at first glance, is actually a terrifying form of rust. This rust is not the typical kind that you might find on an old piece of metal left out in the rain. No, this is a more insidious version, lurking beneath the surface, waiting to spread its corrosive influence. The situation becomes even more alarming when you consider the context in which this liquid is encountered. Imagine a serene setting where individuals gather to capture memories with Khanda, a symbol of strength and unity. In this seemingly peaceful moment, the presence of the white liquid introduces an unexpected element of danger. The act of taking a photo, which is usually a simple and joyful occasion, is overshadowed by the underlying threat posed by this deceptive substance. The rust, hidden under the guise of a harmless liquid, challenges the very essence of the moment, turning what should be a celebration into a scene of potential peril. This juxtaposition of appearances versus reality serves as a stark reminder of the hidden dangers that can exist in our world, often unnoticed until it is too late. The white liquid, therefore, is not just a physical presence, but a metaphor for the unseen threats that can undermine our sense of security and well-being. As people stand together, smiling for the camera, they are unknowingly standing on the precipice of a much larger issue, one that requires awareness and vigilance to address effectively. Then, the most extreme thing after that is what they call bicham ta'anda gemsik in their writings. In any case, in the end, they shook hands in friendship and parted ways. But it was only later that I realized I had forgotten Khanda, whom I pushed away at the lake. The lesson on dissecting a frog was cancelled due to complaints. The biology teacher was saddened, but thought that if Khanda was persuaded, the others would follow. In truth, Khanda is afraid of doing dissections herself. It seems that even the frog is against it. However, due to pressure from Danch, Glasses, and the teacher, she reluctantly agreed, and indeed, the other children followed Khanda to dissect the frog. To make matters worse, Glasses ominously remarked, "Frogs, you are the ones who will bear Khanda's burden for us." He seemed to be announcing who was responsible for their meaningful death, didn't he? And that wasn't all. The teacher, pleased with Khanda, gave her the biggest frog. However, during the lesson, there was a commotion, and it started with, after the frog, Khanda almost fainted and wanted to go home. "No," it begins. Seeing this, the students released the frogs into the river. But the biology teacher realized, my goal was to show the children their weaknesses and make them understand how important life and kindness are. However, they managed to demonstrate their kindness without shedding a single drop of blood on any project. Is this the power of Khanda? They wonder. Meanwhile, while they were having fun, Khanda's frog was in the doctor's room, struggling and eventually dying. Khanda's group secretly meets every day. They even made a schedule. But one day, Khanda runs as if escaping from someone. It seems like Khanda's group is being stalked by someone. Everyone wonders who would dare to do such a thing. It's actually the people who meet secretly themselves. If there really is a stalker, they could use the Khanda budget to protect themselves. However, the person with glasses insisted that Khanda's group should only support Khanda's shadow. And it turned out that the crazy woman who buys erasers is the one meeting secretly. Kondul, being health conscious, said, "Hey, this is the stalker." The person with glasses replied, "What happened to your eyes?" and assured that it was safe, explaining that it was an eraser that drags those trying to get close to Khanda into darkness. The eraser, when used, would catch the librarian trying to approach Khanda. Poor Khanda seems to be on her way to meet Kawata. It turns out that Saichin and Kawata are friends. That's why, after following her, the people gathered together, and by the end of the day, Khanda finally managed to meet Kawata at the cafe, tea, just as the sun was setting. Now just climb over the fence and it's done. However, all the people who followed from behind are gathered at the white fence. Even the eraser library looks like a second Khanda god and is being taken to the altar. But when Khanda saw them, he became very angry. Then he shouted loudly, "Stop it now, every day. What exactly are you trying to do by following me? Why are you doing this to me? Because of you, I might lose an important friend. Don't show yourself to me again, understood?" he warned, and then left. This was the first time Khanda had clearly expressed his feelings truthfully. Now he would understand that he had been cornered into the next group section. He wrote something without taking it. At home, he would smile behind his glasses and say, Tokyo, are you listening? I know you're hiding. Come out, you bastard. The model said you two cried and called us to a party. What kind of state affair is this? They said. My son, the group's gatherings have become even more energetic than before.